Blessed be the young children.
Courtroom dramas for Aaron Sorkin are like cocaine for 90s Aaron Sorkin. The genre brings out the best in him as a writer and apparently as a director, as Trial of the Chicago 7 features stirring performances and fantastic dialogue wrapped up in an all-too-timely story of power and protest. While it does dip into cheesy territory by the end, Sorkin keeps the people at the forefront, forbidding this tale from turning into an overly sappy after-school special, and instead focusing on the downtrodden who are at the center of it all. His ensemble cast is terrific, down to the very smallest roles, and the juxtapositions between the different protesters and their theologies make for some compelling moral discussions that Sorkin is all too happy to have play out with deliciously complex speech. It's quintessential Sorkin, the king of the courtroom drama, and a film that inspires both insight and anger in equal measures.
We want to underscore again that we're coming to Chicago peacefully, but whether we're given permits or not, we're coming.
I understand I got a problem. I'm asking you what I can do about it.
For a film based almost entirely around a character who lacks something that can't be immediately communicated to an audience, Riz Ahmed absolutely delivers an empathetic and charismatic performance as Ruben, the drummer slowly going deaf. Even as his anger and frustration begin to take over, you so desperately want him to succeed. He continues to dig himself further into a hole, even as things are looking up, and Ahmed plays this back and forth between hope and despair with unmatched skill and precision. His passion for his old life and his unwillingness to let go of it is all-consuming, and Ahmed makes sure you know this without hating the character. It's a powerful performance, spoken or not, to the very last moment.
Go into the rain today.
Without a doubt, the most difficult line to walk when crafting a tragedy is maintaining the balance between frustration and care. You have to be frustrated with the main character, but not so much that you stop caring about them. That's what Sound of Metal does so perfectly. By centering its story around the loss of hearing, something so central to everyone's life, but so easily taken for granted, Darius Martyr's film becomes a textbook example of empathy. We want Ruben to become a better person, to let go of his addiction, and to become better, but we also want him to have everything he's so close to losing without his hearing. It's a tightrope of narrative and acting precision, and not only is it pulled off beautifully, but it does so without ever talking down to its audience or bemoaning the deaf community in any way. In some respects, this isn't even a film about deafness. It's a film about addiction, just not in the way you would think.
It's very important, if you want to be here, to understand that we're looking for a solution to this, not this.
He makes me do things I don't want to do.
A slow and somber piece of melancholy, Eliza Hittman's dramatic work of female solidarity and friendship is an astonishing achievement of acting and tonal work. Sidney Flanigan and Talia Ryder have great chemistry, but it's in the quiet, understated moments that the two clearly shine. It's important to mention up front, this is a slow and very deliberately paced film. It lacks any showy elements and oftentimes feels very clinical and documentary-like. All of this is clearly intentional, however, and for those who enjoy slow burns, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always is an absolute triumph of spirit and atmosphere. It's uncomfortable, brutally honest, and yet extremely non-judgmental. This is less a film about abortion as it is a film about the absolute hellish landscape that most teenage girls are forced to get through. This is a work of pure dramatic perfection, finding beauty in brutal realism and understanding.
Don't you ever just wish you were a dude? All the time.
Hey, I said, what are you doing?
For a film as complicated as Promising Young Woman, you need a lead who can unquestionably carry the concept and entire existence of the project. Carrie Mulligan dives headfirst into a role that equally requires a wry sense of camp comedic timing and deathly serious intensity. She does this somehow without missing a beat or making her character intolerable. Even as things begin to fall apart around her, the impact of her actions and the reason she's doing them is never lost because of Mulligan's performance. You want to scream at her to stop, turn around, go back to her old life, but at the same time, it's Mulligan's skill that so perfectly communicates the unfortunate central fact. Even without speaking, you know that she can't stop or turn back. It's a powerhouse of a performance, the best of Mulligan's career, and it will not be soon forgotten. Chloe Zhao's sweeping cross-country epic is a tale of the power of quiet. Numerous sequences in the film are nothing more but quiet moments in various characters' lives, or moments of pure quiet, focusing on Frances McDormand's Fern and her self-reflection. It asks questions about life, ownership, friendships, and never seeks to answer any of them, merely to spark conversations. Or maybe it does answer them and we never really notice. That's the pure and simple beauty of Nomadland. Despite the supposed lack of things going on, we become so enamored with the people it focuses on that it becomes all-encompassing and engrossing. Gorgeous cinematography and understated music help to round out a calm and contemplative character study on the power of self-reflection, empathy, and quiet. I'm thinking of ending things. It is a bold statement. As snow falls to the ground and poetry is recited within the first 10 minutes, it's easy to sit back and assume what kind of film this is. For those who've seen the trailer, it's easy to sit back and assume what kind of film this is. For those who know the cast and crew's previous works, it's easy to sit back and assume what kind of film this is. It's not always easy to watch, clearly a film made for people who love to pore over every detail and examine each line and shot of a film. Charlie Kaufman has made some mind-benders in the past, and while some critical darlings find themselves moving closer to mainstream acceptance, Kaufman may just have created his least audience-friendly film yet. Don't fight it. Relinquish yourself to the film equivalent of a hallucination, and sit down with friends to try and figure out what it all means. The performances are exceptional, the cinematography is immaculate, and even as things seem to spiral, Kaufman clearly has a tight grip on the chaos. It's easy to sit back and assume what kind of film this is. I'm thinking of ending things because it's easy to sit back and assume what kind of film this is. You have no idea.
Incredible how you can see right through me.
While the Saw franchise has its fans, it'd be hard to call any of those films better than passable. So, when series creator Leigh Whannell announced he was directing a film based on The Invisible Man, expectations were tepid. Yet after showing his micro-budget prowess with 2018's Upgrade, Whannell kicks it into high gear with his best film yet. Carried by a stellar performance from Elizabeth Moss, this new Invisible Man marries modern social themes with a classic horror story without ever letting one overlap the other. It's impressively constructed from a technical level, and it manages to pull off jump scares and startles without feeling cheap. It's also consistently surprising, misleading, and tricking audiences at nearly every turn. It's a stellar horror flick that relies on characters and creating suspense instead of buckets of blood and gore. Taking a classic premise and breathing new life into it isn't always a sign of success, and yet Palm Springs works wonders. Maybe it's because of the chemistry between Andy Samberg and Kristen Melody. Maybe it's because of the comedic and dramatic tones, or the concept of the sugary sweet wedding setting slowly turning sour. Whatever the reason, it's an absolute delight. Nothing about this film should work, and yet everything does. As you slowly fall in love with the characters, you realize you're just as conflicted about the central concept as they are, and as more and more moral quandaries come into play, you realize how expertly director Max Barbakow balances the tone, preventing anything from becoming too serious or too comedic. If nothing else, Palm Springs absolutely nails what so many films fail at: being an entertaining crowd pleaser and legitimate critical darling at the same time.
It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
That I might have heard about?
Yeah.
The American dream is such an abstract concept that it supplied us with decades of films about various different interpretations. Yet Minari might just be the greatest. A simple concept gives way to a fabulous family drama where each actor, even the youngest, are experts at their craft. As soothing music plays to underscore these seemingly average everyday moments, Lee Isaac Chung's semi-autobiographical film never feels slow. The warmth exuded from the film helps the events to fly by, bucking the trend of indie dramas feeling as though they take forever. It all comes back to one central thing: heart. Because of the care and time put into showing this family interacting, the little details in their routines and how they cope with life, that's why it all flies by, why it never loses your attention, and why you care so deeply. It's a family drama that takes its time to show them being a family, and the more you watch, the more you fall in love with each of them.
아이고, pretty boy, pretty boy.
I'm not pretty. I'm good looking.
Given the long history of Hanna-Barbera cartoons crossing over, the idea that Warner Brothers would want to create a connected universe of movies based on Hanna-Barbera cartoons seems like an obvious choice. All the pieces are here. Captain Caveman makes a cameo, Dick Dastardly is the villain, Blue Falcon is heavily involved in the plot, and there are Easter eggs abound. Yet none of it forms a cohesive or entertaining film. The animation is clearly of a lower budget, the voice acting outside of Caveman, Dastardly, Scoob, and Shaggy is bland at best, and the plot is too jam-packed with pop culture references and bizarre elements. Who thought a Scooby-Doo movie needed a reincarnation and portal to hell plot? It's a pale imitation of the classic show and early 2000s animated films, or even the early 2000s live-action films. Jinkies. This gang deserves a lot better.
I'm a dick with a D.
Rick with a D.
Da, dick.
Well, Rick.
Dick!
To hide the heart, this moon is shining. I'm running with the wolves tonight. I'm running with the wolves.
While they've enjoyed success for years, Cartoon Saloon has gifted us their first unequivocal masterpiece. Wolfwalkers is a stirring fairy tale adventure, backed up by gorgeous art and wondrous music. Its tale might seem simple at first, but it's told through the incredible art direction, not in spite of it. A cast of relative unknowns, and Sean Bean giving what might be his greatest performance, breathe life into this Irish tale of colonialism and fantasy magic. It's a stunner to watch in motion, and it stirs the heart in numerous ways as the story continues to twist in directions you won't expect. It's a fairy tale, plain and simple, one that can easily find itself sitting alongside the early Disney era. This is a brush stroke and handcrafted masterpiece.
Then we'll air you all.
If the sign of a special film is not being able to imagine it made before it was, then Promising Young Woman is a truly special film. Part pulpy revenge thriller with a slight satirical edge, it's a candy-coated delight. Carrie Mulligan carries the film with her performance, and the casting of former teen icons as creepy men she goes after is genius. The film's script is razor-sharp, constantly towing the line between satire and deathly serious drama. Bright blues and pinks litter the screen, creating a purposeful contrast to the horrific events at play. It's not a film for everyone, and the constant chatter surrounding the entire film, and especially its ending, isn't likely to die down anytime soon. Emerald Fennell has created something one of a kind that could only exist in the world we live in right now. Any earlier and it would have seemed too intense. Any later and it might have seemed too soft. Without spoiling anything further, take note. It's an absolute knockout.
I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. But lately I've been feeling like I might want to get back into it.
Gather round, ye lads. After being delayed by an entire year, even before the pandemic swept the globe, Artemis Fowl would have been better off just never being released. Taking the beloved book series and giving it a swirly, this inane and incompetent film is stuffed to the brim with overbearing characters and world building, a complete lack of charm, and special effects and wizardry that don't make any sense. The acting is terrible, even turning the legendary Judi Dench into a weird, gravelly-voiced elf general. It just plain doesn't work, and instead of letting it bomb, the film is constantly trying to over-explain everything to the audience to compensate for how nonsensical the plot is. It goes beyond just being a bad film and turns into an insulting one, resulting in one of the worst live-action films Disney has ever made.
It's feeding time.
A lot has been made of Pixar's fall from grace in the post-Toy Story 3 world, and while there have been some sparks of greatness since then, nothing has come close to Soul, a powerful and gorgeous film with wonder embedded into its very fiber. As someone who wants to create for a living, there's just something about the story that Soul tells that is not only enrapturing, but calming. It both crushes one's spirit of creating for a living, but subsequently reminds us that there's more than just one path in life, no matter how certain that path is. The vocal performances are terrific, it's visually immaculate in every way, meshing and blending 2D and 3D styles, color schemes, and hyper-realistic lighting. No matter how much time is spent explaining all of the different aspects of the film, words can't fully do it justice, and that's the point. Pete Docter and Kemp Powers have crafted a film that is almost chemically concocted for everyone to get something different out of it. Any person could watch it and come away with a different, yet equally hopeful message. Is it perfect? No, few if any films are. But for those who've struggled and want to make something in their life, it's a film that points you in the right direction, but refuses to spoon-feed you answers. It's the best thing Pixar has made in years, and just might change a few lives.
Get ready, Joe Gardner. Your life is about to start.